Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix, Ph.D., and Helen LaKelly Hunt, Ph.D. Picture this, a man walking along a gorgeous Georgia beach on day 2 of his honeymoon. A few hundred feet ahead, his new bride is silhouetted against the sunrise, hair dancing in the wind, completely lost in her search for seashells. He watches her, this person he's just promised forever to, and suddenly, out of nowhere, a wave of pure anxiety crashes over him. Then comes the thought, clear and terrifying, I've married the wrong person. The feeling is so overwhelming he actually considers turning around, sprinting to the car, and just driving away. A moment later, she turns, smiles, waves, and just like that, the nightmare dissolves. But the memory? That haunted him for years. So what just happened on that beach? Cold feet? A weird premonition? Or something much deeper, a message from the hidden corners of his mind, revealing a truth about love that most of us never discover? That man was Harville Hendrix, and that painful moment sparked a question that would lead him and his partner, Helen LaKelly Hunt, to write one of the most game-changing relationship books ever, Getting the Love You Want. We're talking over 4 million copies sold, so many Oprah appearances. It hit the New York Times bestseller list 11 separate times. It's transformed couples therapy and, more importantly, millions of actual relationships. And the reason it's so powerful? It answers the questions we all secretly wonder about love. Why are we magnetically drawn to one person but not another? Why does that intoxicating can't-eat, can't-sleep feeling of romantic love so often morph into frustration and fighting? And is there a way to not just recapture that magic, but create something even deeper? A love that doesn't just make you happy, but actually heals you and makes you whole. Today we're diving into the profound answers this book offers. And by the end, I promise you'll see your own relationships, past, present, and future, in a completely new light. You'll understand the hidden, unconscious forces secretly running the show, and you'll discover the path from an unconscious partnership, which almost always becomes a power struggle, to a conscious partnership, where you can finally get the love you've always wanted. It all starts with a simple but powerful question Harville and Helen asked at the beginning of their journey. Why do couples fight? Why does the beautiful dream of love so often become a nightmare? To understand, we need to take a quick trip inside our own minds. The authors want us to imagine we have 2 different brains operating simultaneously. There's the new brain, your cerebral cortex, the logical, rational part that observes, plans, and makes decisions, the part you think of as you. But underneath lurks a much older, more primitive part. Let's call it the old brain. This part isn't logical. It doesn't really get time. Its main job is survival, constantly scanning your environment with one simple question. Is it safe, or is it dangerous? This old brain is like an ancient security guard living in your mind's basement, shaped entirely by your earliest experiences. When we come into this world, we experience what the authors call joyful connecting. As an infant, when our needs are met, we feel oneness, safety, perfect harmony with the world. But no parent is perfect. Inevitably, there are moments when our needs aren't met. Maybe our cries go unanswered for a bit. Maybe our caregivers are stressed, distracted, or just don't understand what we need. In those moments, the connection breaks. For a tiny, helpless baby, this rupture feels dangerous. It triggers anxiety. And the old brain, our faithful security guard, records every single one of these experiences. It catalogs the good feelings of connection and the painful feelings of rupture. And it especially takes detailed notes on the people who were there, our caregivers. It creates an unconscious file on them, their positive traits, and even more powerfully, their negative ones. The ways they were warm and nurturing, and the ways they were distant, critical, or unavailable. This collection of traits, this composite image of the people who raised us, forms an unconscious blueprint. The authors give it a special name, the Imago, Latin for image. Now here's the first great secret of the book. As we grow up and start looking for a partner, our conscious mind, our new brain, is making a list. We want someone kind, funny, smart, attractive. But our unconscious mind, our old brain, is looking for something completely different. It's not searching for the perfect person. It's searching for someone who matches our imago. Someone who feels familiar. Someone with the same combination of positive and negative traits as our caregivers. And this leads to a stunning realization. Why on earth would we be attracted to someone with the same negative traits that hurt us in childhood? If your father was emotionally distant, why would you be drawn to a withdrawn partner? If your mother was critical, why fall for someone with a critical nature? The answer is the unconscious mind's deepest, most secret mission. It's not trying to repeat the pain, it's trying to heal it. Your old brain is trying to recreate the conditions of your childhood, but this time with a different ending. It's basically saying, this person is just like the people who wounded me. If I can get this person to finally give me the love, attention, or safety I didn't get back then, my original wound will finally heal. It's an unconscious attempt to return to the scene of the crime and finally solve the case. This is why when you first meet that special person, you might have that strange feeling of recognition, that sense of, I feel like I've known you forever. Your old brain is screaming, that's them, that's the one, they match the imago. This matching process triggers the intoxicating rush of romantic love. The world seems brighter, you feel more alive, more complete. This isn't just poetry, it's chemistry. Your brain releases a cocktail of chemicals, like dopamine and oxytocin, the same hormones involved in mother-infant bonding. Your old brain is convinced it has finally found its perfect surrogate parent, who will meet all its unmet needs and heal all its old wounds. There's another piece to this attraction puzzle. The authors call it the lost self. As we grow up, we're taught through socialization that certain parts of ourselves aren't acceptable. Big boys don't cry. Nice girls don't get angry. We learn to repress certain feelings, behaviors, or talents to fit in and feel safe. Maybe you had to suppress your playful, spontaneous side to be taken seriously. Or hide your vulnerability to appear strong. These disowned parts become our lost self. And what kind of person are we often wildly attracted to? Someone who expresses those very parts we had to cut off in ourselves. The quiet, reserved person falls for the life of the party. The logical, analytical person is drawn to the free-spirited artist. By uniting with them, we feel like we're reclaiming a missing piece of ourselves. For a while, we feel whole. So here we are. We found our imago match. We feel whole and complete. We're flooded with romantic love's euphoria. Our old brain is convinced all its childhood longings are finally going to be fulfilled. It seems like the perfect dream. So why does it all fall apart? This is where we enter the second stage of a relationship, something almost every couple goes through, the power struggle. The shift usually begins after some form of commitment. You move in together, get engaged, get married. The playful dance of courtship ends. The wounded child within each partner, who's been patiently waiting in the wings, steps onto the stage and says, okay, I've been good long enough, time for the payoff. Suddenly, the unconscious expectation that your partner will magically heal your childhood wounds becomes a conscious demand. And you make the shocking discovery that your partner isn't a magical, all-giving parent. They're a separate person with their own set of unmet needs and their own wounded child making the exact same demand of you. And this is when the conflict begins. The very things that once attracted you to your partner now drive you crazy. There are three major sources of this conflict. First, those complementary traits that represented your lost self now start to feel threatening. Remember John, the successful businessman, attracted to Cheryl's vibrant, emotional personality. At first, being with her made him feel more alive and in touch with his own repressed feelings. But as they got closer, her emotional intensity started stirring up his own buried anger, which he learned in childhood was dangerous to express. It made him deeply anxious. So he started trying to shut her down, telling her, don't be so emotional, calm down. The very quality that drew him in now felt like a threat. Second, your partner's negative traits, the ones you so conveniently ignored during the romantic phase, are now impossible to deny. And because they're the same negative traits as your caregivers, they trigger your original childhood wounds with painful accuracy. This is what happened to Harville on his honeymoon. The sight of his wife, distant and absorbed in her own world, with a droop to her shoulders, unconsciously reminded him of his own mother, who, overwhelmed with grief and hardship, had little emotional energy for him as a child. His old brain screamed, "Danger! It's happening all over again! You're going to be abandoned!" The third source of conflict is that we develop opposite defenses to protect ourselves from anxiety. The authors describe this with a brilliant metaphor: the hailstorm and the turtle. When the hailstorm feels a loss of connection, their anxiety makes them want to engage more. They get louder, more expressive, pursuing their partner, trying to force a connection. "Let's talk about this. Why are you being so quiet?" But this energy feels threatening to the turtle. When the turtle feels anxiety, they retreat. They pull into their shell to feel safe, becoming quiet and withdrawn. Of course, the more the turtle retreats, the more the hailstorm hails. And the more the hailstorm hails, the deeper the turtle pulls into its shell. It's a vicious cycle, leaving both partners feeling frustrated, misunderstood, and desperately alone. Look at Bernard and Catherine's story. Bernard, the quiet turtle, would absorb himself in his own thoughts. Catherine, the hailstorm, feeling abandoned by his silence, would push and push for a reaction until he finally walked away, and she would chase after him, hurling accusations. They were trapped in this painful dance, each one's defense triggering the others. When we're in the middle of this power struggle, we feel confused, angry, and betrayed. We think, "You've changed, you're not the person I fell in love with." And in our desperation to get our needs met, we resort to the most primitive tactics we know, the weapons of love. We criticize, blame, withhold affection. We do this for the same reason a baby cries. It's the only way our old brain knows how to signal distress and demand attention. We think, "If I can just cause you enough pain, you'll finally give me what I want." But of course, it never works. It only creates more pain and deepens the rupture between you. So is this the end of the story? Are we all doomed to get stuck in this painful power struggle, either staying in unhappy relationships or divorcing and repeating the same pattern with someone new? The authors say no, this is not the end. In fact, the power struggle isn't a sign your relationship is over. It's a sign the real work of the relationship is just beginning. This is the moment you have a choice. You can either exit the relationship, or you can begin the journey toward a conscious partnership. A conscious partnership is built on a radical new understanding. The unconscious purpose of your relationship is to finish childhood. And your partner, the person who seems least capable of meeting your needs, is actually the person uniquely designed to help you heal. Their frustrations aren't random. They're a roadmap to your own growth. This journey requires moving from the reactive, survival-driven old brain to the thoughtful, intentional new brain. It's about learning to care for your relationship with the same rational skill you might apply to your career or a hobby. The first step on this path is commitment. This isn't just about marriage vows. It's about consciously deciding to close the exits. Exits are anything we do to avoid intimacy and drain energy from the relationship when we feel anxious or hurt. There are catastrophic exits, like divorce. But there are also hundreds of non-catastrophic exits that are just as damaging. Overworking, spending all your free time on a hobby, disappearing into your phone, drinking too much, even focusing all your energy on the kids. To heal a relationship, you have to decide to stay in it, physically and emotionally, and redirect that energy back into the space between you. Once you've made that commitment, you need a new way to communicate. Because the way we normally talk during a conflict is a disaster. We don't listen. We reload. We're not trying to understand. We're trying to win. This is why the authors created the single most powerful tool in the book, the Imago Dialogue. It's a simple, structured, three-step process for talking that feels awkward at first but is utterly transformative. The goal of the dialogue isn't to agree, but simply to understand, to make the space between you safe enough for the truth to be spoken. Here are the 3 steps. Step 1 is mirroring. When your partner speaks, your only job is to listen and then reflect back what you heard, like a mirror. You start with the phrase, "So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying," and you paraphrase their message. Then you ask, "Did I get that?" You keep doing this until they say, "Yes, you got it." This simple act is revolutionary. It forces you to quiet your own internal chatter and actually hear what your partner is saying, perhaps for the first time. It tells your partner, "Your reality is important to me." Step 2 is validation. This is where you try to see the logic in your partner's point of view, even if you don't agree with it. You say something like, "That makes sense," or "I can see how you would feel that way, given your perspective." You're not saying you're right and I'm wrong. You're saying your reality is valid. You are not crazy. This is profoundly healing for people who grew up feeling their reality was constantly denied. Step 3 is empathy. This is where you try to connect with the feeling behind your partner's words. You say, "I can imagine that must feel," and you guess the emotion. "I can imagine you might feel hurt," or "I imagine that makes you feel scared." You're trying to step into their emotional world for a moment. This dialogue creates safety. And when people feel safe, they can be vulnerable. When they can be vulnerable, they can connect. With safety established, the real healing can begin. This happens through an exercise called the Behavior Change Request Dialogue. This is where you learn that behind every chronic frustration and criticism is a disguised, unmet need. Instead of yelling, "You're always late," which just triggers a defensive reaction, you learn to turn that frustration into a positive, specific request. The process helps you dig deeper. You identify the frustration. You're forgetful. You connect it to the deeper feeling. When you forget, "I feel unimportant and unloved." You link it to your childhood. "It reminds me of my father, who was always preoccupied and never showed up for me." And then you formulate a specific, positive request. "For the next month, I would like you to call me once a day from work, just to chat." Now, here is the incredible paradox and the heart of the book's genius. The authors discovered that the very thing your partner needs from you, the behavior that feels the most difficult for you to do, is almost always the precise area where you need to grow. It's your own lost self trying to emerge. Look at Stuart and Melanie's story. Melanie's biggest need was for Stuart to be more present and show her she was important, to heal her wound of being ignored by her father. Stuart's biggest resistance was to giving up his alone time. He even slept in a separate bedroom. For him, sharing a bed felt like being trapped, a feeling that likely came from his own childhood. But when he made the conscious choice to stretch, to try sleeping in the same bed to meet Melanie's need, something amazing happened. Over time, he not only got used to it, but he started to like it. When Melanie, feeling healed and secure, finally told him he could have his own room back, he said, "I'd be lonely in my own room. I wouldn't know what to do with myself." In the act of healing her, he had discovered and healed his own repressed need for intimacy. Love of the self is achieved through the love of the other. This is the engine of transformation. The final, crucial step in creating a truly conscious partnership is creating what the authors call a sacred space. And you do this by making one of the most difficult but powerful commitments of all, the zero negativity pledge. Negativity, criticism, blame, shame, sarcasm, even a dismissive tone of voice, is a toxin to a relationship. Every time you're negative, you trigger your partner's old brain. You make them feel unsafe. You rupture the connection. The authors themselves realized this was the final barrier in their own marriage. They were on the brink of divorce when they realized their relationship was filled with negativity. They made a pact. to go cold turkey. They even put a calendar on their wall and gave each day a smiley face if they made it without negativity, or a frowny face if they didn't. This doesn't mean you can't have problems or disagreements. It means you handle them through the safe structure of the dialogue and behavior change requests. You eliminate the casual, toxic negativity from your daily interactions. And you don't just remove the negative, you actively flood the space between you with the positive. You practice caring behaviors, small, specific actions you know your partner loves. You create a fun list of high-energy activities to do together. You give each other surprise gifts. You learn to become a source of pleasure and safety for each other again, just like in the early days of romantic love. But this time, it's not based on illusion. It's based on a conscious, intentional choice to love. When you do this, something profound happens. The struggle ends. Love becomes less about effort and more about flow. Your partner is no longer your surrogate parent or your adversary. They become what the authors call a passionate friend. You have repaired the original rupture from childhood. You feel safe, whole, and deeply, joyfully connected. And this, the book reveals, isn't just a psychological journey, it's a spiritual one. It's in the messy, difficult, beautiful work of a conscious love relationship that we can truly heal, become whole, and experience our deepest connection to each other and to the universe itself. As we come to the end of our journey through Getting the Love You Want, I find myself reflecting on what makes this book so enduring. After more than 3 decades, why does it still feel so revolutionary? I think it's because it flips our entire understanding of love on its head. We grow up with a consumer model of relationships. We go out into the world looking for the right person, the one who will meet our needs, make us happy, and complete us. It's a search for what we can get. And when that person inevitably fails to live up to our unconscious expectations, we think we made a mistake. We think, I picked the wrong person. This book offers a radical alternative. It suggests that you didn't pick the wrong person. You picked the perfect person. You picked the person perfectly designed to push all your buttons, to trigger all your deepest childhood wounds. And you did this not as a cosmic joke, but because that person holds the key to your healing. The conflict in your relationship isn't a problem to be avoided. It's the curriculum for your growth. Conflict, as the authors say, is growth trying to happen. The transformation begins when you shift your focus. You stop asking, what am I getting from this relationship? And you start asking, what is this relationship asking of me? How do I need to grow to become the partner my partner needs? And here's the beautiful paradox. In the act of stretching to meet your partner's needs, in the selfless act of trying to heal them, you accidentally end up healing yourself. By giving the love your partner wants, you end up getting the love you've always needed. It's an incredibly profound and hopeful message. It transforms the power struggle from a battlefield into a workshop for the soul. So how can you start putting these ideas into practice, even in a small way, starting today? Here are 2 simple actions you can try. First, practice the appreciation mirror. Just once a day for the next week, take a moment with someone you care about. It could be a partner, a family member, or a close friend. One of you shares one small, specific thing you appreciate about the other. For example, I really appreciate how you listen to me talk about my stressful day. The other person's only job is to mirror it back. So if I'm hearing you right, you appreciated that I listened to you. Did I get that? That's it. Don't return the compliment. Don't analyze it. Just let the person giving the appreciation feel heard, and let the person receiving it simply take it in. It's a small dose of positive flooding that can begin to change the energy between you. Second, just try to identify one exit. You don't have to change anything yet. Just become a curious observer of your own behavior. The next time you feel stressed, angry, or disconnected in a relationship, what's the first thing you do? Do you pick up your phone and start scrolling? Do you go to the kitchen for a snack? Do you turn on the TV? That's your exit. Just noticing it, without judgment, is the first step toward making a more conscious choice. That was a summary of Getting the Love You Want, by Harville Hendrix and Helen LaKelly Hunt. We've journeyed through the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a travel brochure. It can show you the beautiful pictures, but it can't give you the feeling of the sun on your skin or the sound of the ocean. The real magic happens when you read the book yourself. It's in those quiet moments, when a particular story or a simple exercise hits you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has touched something deep inside you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning concepts. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see yourself, your partner, and the beautiful, challenging, and healing power of love. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it sparked a new idea or a moment of insight for you, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. We journey into a new, life-changing book every episode, and I would be honored to have you join us. Let's keep learning and growing together.